Welcome everyone to another session of the Mastermind Book Club. Today we're here ready to review one part of a three-part review on this book. And to introduce this book will be Charles Comer.
Yes, good day, good evening, everyone. The book A Brave New World is by Aldous Huxley. I believe the book was written around 1932, and it's a scientific book covering covering test tube reproduction, covering cloning. It kind of reminds me of the boys from Brazil when they took 95 boys to recreate Hitler through test tubes, through artificial insemination to continue with Nazism. This book, I'm looking forward to diving further into it. It kind of shows you what people may be expendable, or we might even become disposable. So that's what I'm going to say for this book right now. Please, I'll have more feedback for you next week.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you. Reggie Hilliard.
Good evening, everyone. Reggie Hilliard for the Mastermind Book Club. This book is pretty profound. Well, maybe we don't need to say profound, but it's just an indictment about what's going on in society. A book that was written almost 100 years ago. And if we look at the current state of things, we can see that this is still very much pronounced and very much prominent in society, whereby it's essentially a matter of control. It's always a matter of control and certain powers that be, if you will, wanting to basically create robots of people, automatons, if you will, basically taking over people, taking over their minds, taking over their powers, basically usurping their powers, taking away the ability of people so that they can control them and make them do exactly what they want. If you see in this book, it's basically talking about that, as Charles alluded to, or touched upon, creating test tube type people, which essentially is to make them a certain way where they're not emotional, where they're basically fit to the T to correspond or to, basically to be built a certain way that's exactly in alignment with what the powers that be want them to be, so that they are never swaying away from the agenda. The agenda is to fall in line. The agenda is to do exactly as you're told, to never think about anything other than the work at hand, which is the work that's been assigned to you, but the powers to be to keep their agenda going, to keep their power dynamic in place. So if you look around, you can see this. And if you will wake up, you can understand that this is what's going on. And if you will get yourself into where you need to be in terms of getting back your mind, stand guard at the door of your mind, you can basically prevent this thing from happening to you, whereby they take over your own mind. So that's what I'll start with. Just look around, you see what's going on. And if you work on yourself, you can prevent these things from happening to you, whereby you're not taken over by the powers that be.
Thank you, Reggie. The next person to speak is Gina Puche.
Thanks, David. The author of this book, Aldous Huxley, actually, he the way he writes this book makes you wonder whether it's something of the future or something that has already happened in the past. And as you know, a couple of you have alluded to already, this is probably something that's already happening. And so I found it fascinating. And actually, some of the things that he said in the book were kind of shocking to me, especially when there was a part, and I'm not trying to give out the book, but there was a part that they did an experiment with little kids, and where they introduce something to them, and then the kids are all excited about it, and then they shock them after that. That was like, oh my gosh, can I go through reading this book a little bit further? And then there's a part as well where they have these kids that when they're sleeping at night, they have subliminal messages that are whispering, I guess, to the kids while they're sleeping. And that's also like, putting some impressions on the mind. I forgot the word exactly that you used, but I found those things to be kind of fascinating and shocking at the same time. Yeah.
Thank you, Gina. And it is. Martha Johnson.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. This masterpiece novel about Aldous Huxley, he's talking about, it caused me a lot of issues for myself when I read this book, because we're still living in 1932, we're still living the situation now sometimes in the present. So he talked about chemicals control human beings, how chemicals control human social dissolution we have, and discrimination, and satirical targets, and the future totalitarian. It was hard to pronounce for me, and the powerful tasting of domination we have in the world, sexual liberation, satirity, ironic, dramatic, and materialism in the labor movements and the government. But the goal for this masterpiece, for him, it was to open the reader's mind to the issues, to make a free society for variable imagination, for the power that the leaders taken to us. That was the goal for his book. It's very powerful. It's very amazing. It will still apply right now at the moment, after almost 100 years ago.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you. This book, Brave New World, the title says it all. I mean, we're in a world that we need to be brave, because there have been so many experiments done on children in order to do whatever it is that they wanted to accomplish. And in this book, it's portrayed in a novelistic way. And the first part of this summary, I want to let you know, I was even like, oh my God, what are they talking about? And the reality is that in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there were so many tests done out there on infants and so on. I don't know exactly what was going on, but I do know that there was an attempt to control us, I guess, to manipulate us, I guess, and I could be wrong. Did they succeed? Yes and no, because we're living through that to this day. This first part of this summary is a little bit complex. It's an interesting book in knowing the reality of historical scientific analysis done on human beings 100 years ago. So until next week, we'll review part 2 and hope to have more insight into this book. This is the Mastermind Book Club. Take care.